In the heart of the cold, unforgiving waters of San Francisco Bay stood a fortress believed to be inescapable, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary. But in the records of criminal history here, one story stands out the most: the daring escape of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers John and Clarence. In January of 1960, Frank Morris found himself imprisoned in Alcatraz due to convictions for bank robbery, burglary, and other offenses, alongside multiple escape attempts from different prisons. During the same year, John Anglin arrived at Alcatraz, followed by his brother Clarence in early 1961. Having known each other from prior incarcerations, this trio found themselves in adjoining cells, laying the groundwork for a daring escape. Among its notorious occupants were criminals such as Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly. No, not the one that got bodied by Eminem in a diss track and completely changed his music of genre and whole personality. There were also individuals with a history of jailbreaks alongside figures like the renowned Birdman of Alcatraz. By the 1930s, Alcatraz was already an imposing fortress surrounded by the icy, turbulent waters of the Pacific Ocean. Its renovation included reinforced iron bars, strategically positioned guard towers, and strict regulations, including obnoxious prisoner checks conducted 12 times a day. Escaping from such a fortress seemed nearly impossible. Against all odds, between 1934 and the prison's closure in 1963, 36 men attempted 14 different escapes. Almost all of these attempts were failed, with the escapees either recaptured or meeting a tragic fate. However, 3 of these inmates defied all the odds. Here's their story. In December, the group initiated their plans when one of them stumbled upon old saw blades. With crude tools, including a makeshift drill crafted from a broken vacuum cleaner's motor, they meticulously drilled closely spaced holes around the air vents at the back of their cells. This allowed them to remove entire sections of the cell walls. To conceal the work, they used whatever materials that they could find, like pieces of cardboard and suitcases. Beyond the cells lay an unguarded utility corridor. Navigating through this passage, they reached the roof of their cell block inside the prison. Here, they established a secret workshop, taking turns to keep watch for guards, utilizing a primitive periscope they had fashioned. Using stolen and donated materials, they constructed what they needed to escape. They stole over 50 gathered raincoats that were transformed into makeshift life preservers and a 6x14-foot rubber raft. Carefully stitching the seams together, they vulcanized the raft using the hot steam pipes in the prison. Simultaneously, they sought an exit from the building. The ceiling was a daunting 30 feet high, but through a network of pipes, they climbed up and managed to pry open the ventilator at the top of the shaft. To hold it in place temporarily, they fashioned a fake bolt out of soap, allowing them the crucial access they needed for their daring escape plan. The only reason we know about all of this is because Alan West, which was one of the prisoners who was supposed to escape with them, was left behind. He did not have his ventilator grill completely removed on the night of the escape and was left behind, which is great for us because now we can tell this story. On the night of June 11th, they were ready to go. The remaining trio entered the corridor, collected their equipment, and ascended through the ventilator, emerging out onto the prison roof. From there, they descended down the bakery smokestack at the rear of the cell house, scaled the fence, and stealthily made their way to the northeast shore of the island. Finally, they launched their makeshift raft, disappearing into the dark waters of the night. To this day, the FBI file still remains unsolved. But what if we already have the answers that we need? Let me explain. Numerous individuals have made extensive efforts to argue that the escapees could have survived, but the fundamental question remains, did they? The investigation at the time led everyone to a different conclusion, supported by the following factors. 1. Crossing the bay. While some young swimmers have managed the mile-long journey from Alcatraz to Angel Island, the strong currents and frigid bay water made it highly improbable for these men to even succeed. 2. If by land. The prison informant outlined a plan involving stealing clothes and a car once on land. However, despite the high-profile nature of the case, there was no evidence found of any thefts of the sorts. 3. The family ties. If the escapees had assistance, no one could verify it. The family seemed unlikely to have the financial means to provide any support to them. Because they probably couldn't. I mean, the 4 of them planned for months straight on what they would do when they got out. Any experiment conducted trying to match the 3 inmates floating across the bay just doesn't make sense to me. The 3 of these men were juiced out to the gills with adrenaline and maxed out completely on their fight or flight mode. I mean, if these guys were caught escaping, they were done for. But they were already done for. This was it. Either make it out and never be seen again, or face life in prison and rot. Now, here are some facts. If supposedly they drowned and didn't make it to land, their bodies were never found, and they definitely would have been. The mother of the Anglin brothers came forward and said she would sometimes receive roses at her door signed by her sons' names after the escape happened. John and Clarence's older brother said on his deathbed that they didn't have to worry about their brothers and that they had been in touch with them and they were just okay. I feel like this is already enough information, but to just seal the deal real fast on why they escaped, in 2015, a history show claimed they took a photo of the two men in Brazil 13 years after the escape. The family even came out and confirmed that this is them, the two Anglin brothers who escaped Alcatraz, and the FBI is still in denial. Unfortunately, this is probably everything that we will ever know about the Alcatraz prison escape, so what do you think? Did they successfully escape Alcatraz?